All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Happy December 17th, our last town hall of 2024. I'm Mary Catherine Chase, your Director of Communications, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you this morning. We actually have the sun shining. I'll start with a couple of reminders. I'm putting them in the chat as well. If you have any questions during our different sections of content this morning, please feel free to share it by putting in the chat, raising your hand. You can email the town hall email, or you can chat me in Teams. All of those are options at this point. We're going to kick off by reviewing our agenda, and then I'll hand off to our city manager, Wyatt Shields. So this morning we have a couple of agenda items, and we do have a couple of team members that are going to have to leave around 11:30 to make it to some other meetings. So if you start seeing people jump off, we're not done. It's just that some folks have other commitments today. All right, great. So we know what we're doing. After you've asked a question or you've talked, I'll ask if you also remute yourself. I'll try to remember that as well. So to kick off, here's our city manager, Wyatt Shields.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mary Catherine. And I will be one of those that will be jumping off this meeting a little bit early. We are in the midst this week of our interviews for our new director of the Department of Public Works. And so I'll be getting some briefings from the interview panels, and I need to be over there at 11:45 for that. So looking forward to hearing how that went. A couple of things I want to acknowledge is just want to thank our HR team for putting together a really wonderful and uplifting service awards luncheon on December 12th. And Megan DeSell was our lead on that, but the whole HR team worked really hard along with our Rec and Park staff and many others for a great event. And congratulations to all of our awardees that were celebrated at that event. On December 19th, the City Council is going to host a very informal get-together with staff. That's on Thursday, the 19th at 9 a.m., breakfast with the City Council, and that will be at the Community Center. Later in the program today, we're going to have a briefing from Lionel on the HVAC project at the Community Center. So the Community Center is going to be kind of out of commission for much of the winter months starting on January 6th. And so this council breakfast won't be one of the last times for staff to get by the Community Center before we close it down for those much needed renovations. I want to note also that Jenny Carroll sent out a memo that was put together by the Employee Survey Action Team. I encourage everybody to take a look at that memo. It has concrete actions for us to take as an organization to address some of the things that came out of the employee survey, along with the Veritas study. So people should take a look at that. And at our January employee town hall meeting, we do want to do a deeper dive on those recommendations. So I want to thank the employees that were engaged in the Employee Survey Action Team effort. And that team was co-chaired by Maria Rojas and Beth Meadows. And I really appreciate their leadership in putting together a really good plan for the organization. So those were a couple of notes that I wanted everyone to be aware of. And now I will welcome new employees. And we have in the sheriff's office, Kevin Fuentes. Probably many of you all have met Kevin. I've seen him at the EAP luncheon and at the Service Awards luncheon. I've seen him at a lot of places. So welcome, Kevin Fuentes. And Mary Jo West is joining Rec and Parks as our Associate Band Director. So welcome to you both. And the other big announcement we put out yesterday is we have extended an offer, and it has been accepted for our new HR director. And Sharon Gibson will be joining the city on January 27th. And really looking forward to having her leadership, her very positive leadership in the HR function that serves the whole organization. So welcome to Sharon. We will have kind of a tour to make sure that people get a chance to meet Sharon when she comes on board, and we'll have more information on that soon. All right, Mary Catherine, that's what I wanted to cover just in terms of introductory comments, and I think I will take um, the lead in just walking through some standard operating procedures for winter weather. We had a small team of folks with Mary Catherine and Joe Carter and Herb Holmes, Latanya, and Melissa, several others that weighed in on how we can be more predictable and make sure that we provide timely and clear notice to employees on city operating status when we have snow or ice. Kind of what guided the development of the COP is the safety of our community members and the safety of our workforce when we do have winter weather. And so let me hit a couple of the highlights of this SOP. And I will note we'll send out the SOP soon, and it will be located at the employee corner of the city website so people can access this readily. Next slide. So some of the key terms that will be in the SOP when we have a forecast of winter weather or winter weather is actually occurring, the things that you would look out for is an announcement of unscheduled leave. So that is typically triggered when our schools start to close. We have used Fairfax County as kind of our main indicator. Fairfax County schools either close early or have delayed opening or closed all day. We will offer unscheduled leave, and that's really to intend so that if employees have family members they need to take care of, they can do so in communication with their supervisor. You don't just leave, you coordinate that with your supervisor. And of course, if you are determined to be an essential personnel for winter weather response, then unscheduled leave is not available for you. We need you here to respond to the event. The other is a delayed opening. That would be a 2-hour delay typically, and that's to allow us time to clear the sidewalks, the streets, so that employees and the public can access our facilities safely. The other option will be simply closed. What that means, we'll be closed for the entire business day. And then sometimes what will happen is we're all here, and then the forecast is for snow in the afternoon, in which case we would announce an early closing. The goal is to get people off the roads and home before the streets become unsafe. Next slide. So when do we make these determinations? And I think this is a key thing that the SOP wants to regularize and clarify. So option one is to get the word out no later than 9 p.m. the day before the winter event. Now, if there's a slam dunk forecast, or if the conditions are already building, then we'll make that call by 9 p.m. If that's not possible, then we will get word out no later than 4:30 a.m. That's a change. Our old SOP was 5:30, and that caused problems. That was too late for employees that have longer commutes. So we will get word out no later than 4:30 a.m. on our operating status in the event of winter weather. If we decide that we're going to have a delayed opening, then a change to delayed opening to closed all day, that decision would be communicated out no later than 7 a.m. And then sometimes if winter weather, we're all here, we're open, but winter weather is coming, we want to be able to make a decision on program status for the evening. That's our rec and parks programs, library programs, or city meetings. We want to make that decision no later than 3 p.m. Everbridge is our mass communication platform. So that's the key thing, that you're signed up for that so you can get these messages. All right. So next slide. And Mary Catherine, I think we'll skip this. This is about who's on that 4:30 a.m. call. We want to do a little bit more work just to make sure we've clarified who would be on that call, but that's for a more targeted audience. Here's a key concept that is embedded in our administrative regulations. That's essential personnel. And so Latanya, you'll notice last week put out a call for everybody to update their essential personnel records with HR. You should be having these communications about what expectations are for your position and for what you do in the event of snow and ice. The typical essential personnel are some examples of them are our police and emergency communications staff, our public works operations staff, Rec and Parks facilities maintenance staff, OCOM staff, OEM staff, and then generally city manager's office, department heads, constitutional officers also would be essential during a snow or ice event. But again, the key thing is talk with your supervisors so those expectations are clear. And then the last slide on the SOP is just, again, this is a plug for our Falls Church Alert system, and that's our mass communication system. You can register your text, your email, your home email, all the ways that you can be contacted just to make sure that you get the word. And this is needed for all emergencies and for all employee communications. So please do sign up. So let me pause if there are any questions on this. The goal here is to provide clarity and predictability in our snow response.
Thank you so much, Wyatt. Celeste, I see your hand up.
Yes, of course, I have a question about after hours meetings. So if City Hall is closed during the day, we will still make a decision at 3 about after hours activities. Is that correct? So you can't rely on, City Hall is closed because of weather. We'll have to wait to 3 to see if we will cancel the meetings in the evening.
That is correct. I think most of the time, if City Hall is closed all day, those evening meetings are going to be closed as well. But for instance, with city council meetings, the mayor gets a voice in this, and so there will be some coordination with Celeste, with you, and for those evening meetings. The deadline would be 3 p.m. to make decisions on that.
Yeah, and I'm mostly concerned about the other boards and commissions knowing that some staff has to make it in. So it would be nice to talk about if there are some rules we could make so people are sure they don't have to wait and see if they have to stay after 3 or come in after 3 or so.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you, Celeste. We have a question in the chat from Allie Golden. In the event of a delayed opening or early closure, how should we enter our time for the day?
So that will be in the more detailed SOP that goes out. And that's a key thing that's always an issue when we have these sort of delayed opening issues, is how to do payroll. And we've developed kind of a more detailed chart that will show that out about how that's handled from a payroll perspective.
Thank you for that, Allie. Thank you, Wyatt. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in on this item. Does anyone want to raise their hand or put anything in the chat? All right. Thank you so much, Wyatt. This is really helpful. I think everyone's really glad to see where we are, and that change in the morning call, I think, is going to be a win for a lot of people. All right. Up next, we have Bethany Howard-Tran. Bethany, would you please step up to the mic?
Yes, good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I just wanted to bring forward some items. Some have been mentioned already via email, upcoming with the end of the year and the beginning of 2025. We just wanted to go over a few things that employees should be aware of, changes and things like that. As well as some ESS updates. So starting, you can see on the slide, please take advantage to log into ESS, review your address, any of your W-4 withholdings. If you want to make any changes, that could be done through the ESS portal. We really want employees to kind of just go in and at least just double check as far as addresses, because W-2 processing is coming up in the next month or so, and we really would like to limit the wrong mailing addresses that W-2s go out to. We don't want things to get sent back. We don't want things to get lost in the mail. So it would be really helpful if you could go on and just double check if you've made any move or anything like that. The address can be updated on ESS. And with that, if you are claiming exempt, meaning you are claiming no tax liabilities and no withholding is being taken, you will also need to resubmit a new W-4 after the new year for the year 2025. When you claim exempt, it's only it's only for the year and it expires at the end of the year. And so the IRS requires a new form to be submitted. And if one is not submitted by February 15th, we're going to update your filing status to single/married filing separately with no other options. So you would then see taxes being withheld. So it's important for you to take a look at that. The 2025 payroll calendar has also been uploaded to the P Drive and can be viewed for our payroll dates, the pay period dates. Everything is on there. The holidays have been approved by council. And the only difference, I believe, from 2024 is in 2025, we will return to the half day on Christmas Eve, the 24th. The 25th will be a full day holiday, and as well as the 26th was approved for a full day holiday for the Christmas time. So it will be 2.5 days of holiday in 2025. The new limits for IRS, for Mission Square contributions for 457 contributions is being raised by $500. So the limit now for 2025 will be moved from 23,000 to 23,500. And if you're over 50, that also was bumped up $500 to 7,500 for a total of 31,000. So if you want to make any Mission Square contribution changes, that can also be done on ESS. The IRA limit is not changing in 2025. It's remaining $7,000. But if you still wanted to make any changes to your contributions, you can do so through the ESS portal. And one last note for payroll and HR things, the annual leave cutoff. I know Latanya had sent out an email a little while ago with those dates. I just wanted to reiterate, if you have an overage of leave, annual leave, if you've been working with the city over 10 years, your balance, your limit is 320 hours. And if you have been working for the city less than 10 years, your limit is 240 hours. If you have any leave over that for annual leave, you have until January 11th to use that leave. Otherwise, anything over the limit is going to be converted into sick leave. Now, if you're unable to take leave between now and January 11th for, reasons that, your supervisor or something, you can't schedule the time off, you are allowed to request an extension to Latanya by December 28th. And the time to use that leave, if approved by HR, will be March 22nd. So I think that's all of the things for payroll, and I'd like to move on to some ESS updates. We just did our third round of testing, and I want to give a few statistics with that. We did have about 70% participation, which was much better than the first two rounds. So we got a great deal of employees participating, sending in questions, issues, things like that. Of that 70% that submitted and we processed, there was about 10% errors with that. Most commonly, employees entered hours that they worked, but they forgot to request their leave, annual sick comp leave, or vice versa. They had requested their leave, but they forgot to enter their hours worked. Another common issue we saw was the holiday hours being left off in their base pay hours. With ESS, I think some departments handle things differently, but with ESS, if you are not working on the holiday, you still need to record those hours, and those hours are going to be recorded with your base hours. You would just enter 8 for that holiday. And then the last thing we saw was employees did enter their time. They did submit it through ESS, but unfortunately, the supervisors did not approve by the deadline we had set. So those were the most common things we saw error-wise. Back to some of the statistics, we saw that employees submitted their time, but wasn't approved by their supervisor. That was about 15%. And then not submitted at all by the employee was about 15%. And that would have included those not submitting in time as well. So maybe they entered it, but they forgot to hit the submit button by our deadlines that we had set. Moving on to the next slide. The fun stuff. We are slated to go live on December 29th for payroll 2 of 2025. That's the payroll date of January 17th, but I have the payroll dates there. It's going to be the 29th through January 11th. Timesheets are going to be due January 13th, and that is both submitted by the employee and approved by the supervisor. We've sent out some reports that admins can take a look at to kind of see where their employees are as far as things being submitted and approved. They should utilize, and that means with the upcoming holiday, if you are going to be requesting some time off, you need to do so in ESS Live under the Request Time Off module. You can use the link here to enter ESS Live. I really highly encourage you to log in today. If you haven't logged in for the first time, please log in, get your second factor or dual factor authentication set up, and make sure there's no issues with login and access and things like that before we are required to use ESS. If there's any questions or any issues with access or things like that, please send those to ess@fallschurchva.gov. And we're really excited to transition to this new method of payroll processing.
Thank you so much, Bethany. We have one question in the chat. What time on the 13th of January must the timesheets be approved by the supervisor?
That is a great question. That would be end of business day. So 5 p.m. we would like everything to be approved on Monday.
That's great. Thank you for that question, Jessica. Does anyone else have a question for Bethany regarding any of her great content that she shared with us? Lonnie's got her hand raised. Lonnie.
Thank you. Bethany, if we're going to be on vacation, should we submit our PTO request now so it reflects for pay period 2?
Yes, that's correct. That's why I wanted to mention that it's live. You can go into ESS right now and you can see the request time off, and you can go in there, put the dates for that pay period 2, and go ahead and request that today if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, Lonnie. Thank you, Bethany. All right, we have a question from Celeste.
So if somebody requests time off now and then they end up not taking it, is there a way to pull that back? Is that a more in-depth
Yes,
question?
there is a way to do that. We ask now that employee or admin supervisors or employees just send an email to the payroll email address, fallschurchpayroll@fallschurchva.gov, and then we will able to coordinate that correction.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
That's excellent. These are such good questions. Anyone else have a question for Bethany? Right. Bethany, was this your last slide? I think so, right?
Yes, I believe so.
All right, great. Bethany, thank you so much. It's much appreciated. I think we all learned some really good stuff today. Next, I'm going to hand off to Cindy Mester, who has some updates regarding pension and OPEB funding.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mary Catherine. Yeah, just wanted to give a quick update on the last retirement board meeting, which was in November, where they received the annual report from our actuaries that indicated the funding status of our pension plans, both basic and police, as well as OPEB, known as other post-employment benefits, which is health insurance and life insurance for those that are retired but prior to 65 years of age. The good news is, and the details are on this slide, that all of the plans are well funded, good sustainability, reliability, and diversity of investments. So you can see basic and police are both over 100% funded, and the total assets that are invested for our future retirees and current retirees are listed, as well as the same for OPEB. OPEB is a little different because it's broken out by the 3 employers instead of basic and police. So you'll see I've listed general government, public schools, and the Criminal Justice Academy. There are differences between the fully funded status, and that really just ties to the number of participants. Basic is bigger than police, for example, and demographics and anticipated retirement dates. But the key message here is we're well funded. The retirement board is doing great oversight for our pension plans and OPEB, and we are grateful for the citizens that serve on the retirement board, as well as our employees that have stepped up to serve as trustees. Glad to answer any questions, or people can follow up with HR and myself afterwards as well.
That is a great update, Cindy. Does anyone have any questions for Cindy? Give it another second. Don't see any coming in. Thank you so much, Cindy. And Cindy's one of the ones that has to bounce, so we just made it under the wire for the 11:30 mark. All right.
Appreciate.
I got to keep my promise, so thank you all. All right, next up, we have an update actually from OCOM, from the Office of Communications. One of the first things that I learned about when I arrived at the city 6 months ago is that a lot of our colleagues across the city were concerned about our email signature. It had come through employee groups, including SEAT, that there was a recommendation to have a standard communication template for email signatures and for out-of-office messages. And so I am here today to give an update to that. Various colleagues have looked at this and approved it. And I think some of the key things that we're aiming for here is consistency, accessibility, and a representation that reflects the city government. So the email signature will, going forward, rely on our brand standards, which includes the accessibility point of 12-point font. We will use our brand colors, so either just black or the city's navy, which you see here as the background, and we'll hit the key information points. One of the things that the city provides is the capacity for folks to communicate with us via this TTY 711. And so whatever phone number it is that you have listed in your email signature or will have there, you want to add that to the end of your signature. And then we want to add in public disclosure statements. So some folks have been using these across the cities and others not. I talked with our representatives who know the best, and this was the outcome of it. So here is what the template will look like, and we will send out this via email so that you can copy, paste, and customize. And then I was told by colleagues that looked at this that we needed to give an actual example. So here is my example, and you will note that up top we have that pronouns are optional for a lot of folks. This is an important piece of it, and so we wanted to make sure that is there. And but it is not something that's required as part of the email signature. So here is an example of my email signature that I have been using. I have it modified for when I answer as the PIO and the public information box, but it follows the same rules as well. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Throw rotten fruit. No? Okay. All right. Oh, we do have one. Hi, Corey.
Hi, just a quick question. So for folks who have like a general inbox for like I know our recreation staff, we have a general recreation email and we have even some part-time staff in there. Do you have any suggestions for using their own name individually, like a general just recreation staff signature?
That's a great question. I think the general can be used or it can be specific. I think some of our departments are putting specific names with the general email box. So like that's what I do for answering the public info one. But in terms of recreation, since you have people rotating through there, I think it makes sense not to necessarily put the name, but if folks are comfortable to, I think it does add an air of visibility to it. But in the email address, you would have that general email address there and they can decide whether to sign it or not. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question, Corey?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great question. Does anyone else have a question to ask about this? All right, I'm moving on to the second half of this.
Mary Catherine, you got muted. It's Maggie.
I did get muted. The next part in here is the how to change your email signature. And so when we send this out, these instructions will be there as well. There is more than one way to change an email signature. So if you're saying, oh, I go through file first and then these steps, you can do those as well. This to me is the easier way to do it. And so I added that here. And it will again go out in the instructions. I don't expect you to take like a screen shot and use this later. So the second one is an out of office reply. In most offices, there isn't a full user across an organization of everyone using out of office replies in the same way. We want to get to a place where everyone is using out of office replies because it helps inform colleagues and if you're working with the external audience on expectations. So a couple of areas that we've agreed on that would be useful is for internal to have a hello, thanks for emailing. Put in your out of office dates so that people know when you're away. Make sure you put a contact in. If you're not there, who can they contact? Can you be contacted in case of an emergency, right? And then your closing. For external, it's slightly different because you may want to tailor this based on the different audiences externally you work with. But again, a hello, a thanks for emailing, the start and end date. Add in if the office is closed in observance of a holiday. I think that really helps in terms of how you are managing that expectation. If people email you and then they email someone else, that they know that maybe the whole city is closed that day. Can somebody else be contacted while they're away? What their details are to contact and a closing. All right, I have a question from Lonnie. Do you have instruction to do this from cell? How to change your away from cell? I can add that, Lonnie. I don't have that on my cheat sheet yet. So I will work on adding that in. That's a great question. I'm gonna make a note.
I just think that it would be helpful, like hypothetically, if you're sick, you don't have your computer, you want to put an out of office on, it just makes it a little bit simpler, I think.
You're absolutely right. Totally agree, Lonnie. I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. And so also what will go out is the how do we actually implement this? And so again, all of those steps will be there, and I will add into the instructions how to do it from your phone. We've got a question from Maria. When does this take effect? We would love for the city to come back from break and everyone start using the email signature starting on January 2nd. So it's sometime in the next few days. If you're not immediately leaving on leave, I know some colleagues already have, we would love to see that implementation take place. And in terms of out of office messages, we would love for that to start being exercised as soon as possible as you are starting to put out your out of offices for your end of the year leave. Our hope is that everyone will be on board doing this by the end of January. We recognize that this is a change culturally for some people, and for others, you're already doing it. It's already your norm, but we'll get it lockstep so that our as colleagues, we can have the same expectation and the public can have that as well. All right. I don't see any other questions. And so with that, I would love to hand off to Amy Youngs with Rec and Parks, who's going to give us that update on what's going on with the community center. Amy?
Good morning, thank you. I can be quick. We've presented this a few times. Lionel's doing most of the work here and has presented to you all before, but this is the last town hall before all of this happens. So just a quick reminder, that red spot on the photo is the drive aisle in front of the community center that will be closing effective Monday, January 6th. So that is the start of our major HVAC project with the 15 or so geothermal wells being dug right there. Over the winter break, Rec and Parks, along with help from other departments, is making our move over to the trailers over at Oak Street Elementary. And January 6th, we open at Oak Street, so we will not be occupying the community center during the workday. We will be over at the Oak Street Elementary trailers. During the workday, our staff will be over there. We'll have programs over there that happen during that time. Your music together and little kitty art classes, things like that will happen over at the trailers. The community center is staying open nights and weekends, so it's only closed basically during the workday because of that drilling, but it is fully functioning on nights and weekends through February 23rd. In addition to that drive aisle being closed, there'll be a bit of a detour because that drive aisle closure will cut all the way into kind of towards the street, so it will take up that pathway there, so there'll be a walking detour around it. And so we really just want folks to know a few things. One is to expect some noise. It's kind of the pain of having to go through this, but it's part of the project. There's going to be drilling happening for 6 to 8 weeks, starting Monday, January 6th. And also some kind of traffic, be aware that drive aisle is going to be closed. There will be some closures for the construction, laying down the materials, fenced in areas that will all be along the side of the community center. Shouldn't impact parking overall too much because we won't be there. So any parking spots that they're going to be taking for lay down, we would have taken more between our staff and our users at the community center. So that shouldn't impact you too much, but you will notice some parking areas closed off. The farmers market will condense itself on Saturdays of City Hall, where those mailboxes are, and over in front of City Hall, leaving that drive aisle in front of the police station open on Saturdays. And then Rec and Parks, will be over at the trailers during the day. We'll still be reachable. We will come to City Hall for our mail and packages. So for those of you that do work in City Hall, you may see an increase in mail and packages. We're going to do our best, and I'm sure there will be some lost packages for a little while and a few emails going out. If we've seen things, I'm sure that will happen, but please be patient as we work through our move, and happy to answer any questions.
That was fantastic, Amy. Thank you so much for the update. All right, does anyone have any questions for Amy at this point? Well, then we wish you a lot of luck packing up and bon voyage and all that, and glad to know that we'll still see y'all often as you come to get the package. Next, we have Corey, also from Rec and Park, talking through Watch Night.
Hello, everyone. It's almost here. We've got Watch Night coming New Year's Eve, December 31st. Clear your calendar. It's the City of Falls Church, us working in collaboration with Little City Catch Foundation, to put on this big free, emphasis on free, family-friendly New Year's Eve. We've got all sorts of things. We've got kids rides and adult rides, inflatables. We've got, of course, the countdown to the new year with the star drop, the historic star drop. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. It's massive up on a crane, 60 feet high. The love sculpture will be there, get those family photos, indoor and outdoor entertainment. So when you get cold, you can go inside to some of the other venues, including the Falls Church and the Falls Church Presbyterian and the Episcopal Church, just a little bit further on Broad Street. But it is take place in between Maple and Washington Avenue. That section of Broad Street is where all the outdoor fun takes place. And then, of course, historic tours, photo ops. Definitely stop by the churches. They've got some cool, fun stuff this year, but it'll be about 7 p.m. to midnight when all the good stuff's happening. And then if I could hit the next slide, this is just some information on the road closure and parking. Of course, since we're having only 14 days until watch night, but we gotta shut down the road so we can have the fun. So again, it is that 100 block of West Broad Street between Washington and Maple going down, and that'll close around 5 p.m. on December 31st into the early morning of the new year. So just if you're in the area, if you're looking for parking, just keep that in mind when you're planning your route. I'd avoid it if I were you, but just keep it in mind. And then just some parking options for the night. Lots of free public parking. Make sure you keep an eye out and you're not going in the business lots. We want everyone's car to be there at the end of the night. But these are just some options at the different churches. Of course, Kaiser, George Mason Square on that first level, and any street parking that's unrestricted. But hopefully we see you all there. At least stop by for a little bit, then hit a restaurant, get some hot choc, get some dinner. But it should be a lot of fun. Definitely make sure you check it out if you're in the area.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. I think Watch Night is so much fun. It's very cold for this Floridian, but it is totally worth doing. So if you haven't done it before, hope to see you out there this year. All right, next up, we have Sarah from our Office of Economic Development sharing the update on the 2025 Restaurant Week.
Hey, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the holiday season. We've got a lot coming up. So excited about it. But most of all, for me, Falls Church Restaurant Week 2025, we have 41 restaurants. If you wanted to change to the next slide, can you tap it? Perfect. You can see all of the restaurants that have signed up so far, 41 of them. The ones in the lighter color blue are new to the city. So you can see some of those. And then we have a total of 10 new restaurants that have signed up, new participants this year. And we're still hoping to get a few stragglers in. But at this point, 41 is a pretty amazing number. So those dates obviously will be January 31st to February 9th. All day. So one full week of restaurants, and we're calling it 10 Days of Deliciousness. We've had a lot of social media reels of restaurants letting people know that they've joined and what number they were to join. And they've been really great, really cute, lots of engagement. So we encourage everyone to participate in and tell your family and friends, and we'll have more information as that gets closer.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions on Restaurant Week for Sarah? No. Well, this is looking absolutely amazing, and I'm sure that your January update's going to show even more. And I just can't wait. I don't know how you get to all of these in just 10 days of deliciousness. So to close out, we just want to do a couple of reminders about upcoming dates. I'll start by throwing out some Office of Communications ones. For example, we are doing our last Falls Church Focus to the community this Thursday, December 19th. So if you have anything that you want to go out before the end of the year, that is this week. And then the next one is that we will have our Chronicle going out to all city employees on January 6th. So the call for content for that will be a little bit later. We want everybody to be settled back in before we do that Welcome to 2025. All right, so as a reminder, the dates that were closed, December 24th and 25th, January 1, And OCOM will be sending out messages to the community, posting on the website, etc. We are also closed, just want to say in advance, for Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January 20th. We are rescheduling the city manager meetup. I will be sending you a new invite later this week. We're going to go over to the property yard on January 16th. And then a cool reminder was added here that the new bike shelter installation out front of City Hall is going to be going on starting January 13th. Does anyone have any final comments, questions, or anything before we go? Don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. So I'll just say thank you all so much, especially to our presenters. And I hope everybody has a wonderfully safe winter break. Thank you. Bye-bye.